Hello, my name is David Turner and this is another Lunar Poetry Short, and today I'm joined by Dan Cockrill and Rob Auton. Hello.
Hello there, Dave.
Hello.
We're both from Bang Said the Gun. We're going to start with a bit of background about Bang, and since Dan is a co-founder along with Martin Auton, we're going to let him have that honour.
So it was the late 90s, I suppose, when I started to do my first poetry gigs. I think my first poetry gig was in 95 in Brighton, and Martin saw me do a gig down in a cave in Brighton, and he decided, he wants to do that as well. So we thought we'd set up a night, really, but the nights we were going to during that time didn't really suit what we were doing, so we were getting a bit frustrated. So the night we proposed to set up was a night that sort of smashed poetry and entertainment together. But it took a long way in coming, because I think the first gigs were in 97, 98 with that original lineup.
Were they based in pubs, were they?
In pubs, above pubs, London pubs. So we did the Wheat Sheaf, just off Tottenham Court Road. We did, you wasn't in there, I can't remember. There was a few other pubs, but we kept, the Old Coffee House in Soho. We were there, but we kept getting chucked out, or there's problems with the management who didn't want poetry night, and no one came. Literally, no one came. We'd have like 5 performers and 2 people sitting in the audience. So it was pretty frustrating. So it was on and off, and then I suppose 2008. All that time up, we found the Roebuck upstairs at the Roebuck, and it was the first time the manager had said, "Yeah, go and do what you want to do up there." Whereas before there was things where we couldn't move chairs or we couldn't do this, and he gave us a free rein. But even those early days, I can't remember when you came on board, Rob, but was you at the start? We were doing stuff at the road. Once again, no one came really. We just had, I remember one time there was a football tournament on, and there was 2 people in the audience, and the chef said we could hear the radio or the TV in the kitchen with the football on. And one of the members of the audience got up and went into the kitchen to watch the football. And I just thought, this is it, man. This is the end. Yeah. This is bleak.
Was it? What do you think? Was that just a lack of understanding of what poetry gigs could be in general, or was it just people didn't understand quite what you were trying to do?
People just didn't. I don't know. I think if you say to the vast majority of people, the general public, do you want to come to a poetry night, they will say no. So I'm not speaking for Dan Matter, but I can only imagine their thing was, let's make a poetry night that the general public would want to come to because it's entertaining, and it's not.
I think crap. What we got frustrated with would be in a poetry gig, and it'd be full of poets rustling papers, waiting to go on stage, and we wanted to get away from that. So
to give it a bit of context, what were most poetry gigs like in the mid-90s when you were first thinking that you needed to set something else up?
They were in a room where the lighting was bright, strict lighting. There was nothing set up on stage. There was no mics. The chairs were just laid out in lines. Everybody knew each other in the gig because they would be coming. It was like their little community thing, and I loved poetry. I love poetry, and I'd go to these things and I'd want to leave within half an hour. So that was the point. And there is a place for those. They're not bad in what they do. It's just that I didn't want to be there. Yeah. So that was the reason for us doing something else, really.
There were 2 particular phrases that spring to mind when I think about Bang, and they're 2 that appear on your posters a lot. And the first is poetry, not ponce, and the second is poetry for people that hate poetry. And I just wondered if you could both maybe say a bit about what those phrases mean to each of you.
Well, I've always been kind of at odds with the phrase of poet and poetry, and I've never ever called myself a poet or anything like that. I think for me it was just I was working with Martin in an advertising company and was finding it very difficult, and started filling up a notebook with writing that had an idea at their core. And I said, Martin said, "Oh, I'm starting a poetry night," and I said, "Oh, I've got some writing that I could read out, you know." And then, so it's always just been writing. So I think poetry, not ponce, is kind of, I find it very difficult when sometimes you go to a night and people might say, "Oh, that's not poetry." I don't think anyone should say to someone else whether something's poetry or not.
Yeah. These phrases that kind of appear on your posters a lot, were they sort of the original ideas behind Bang in general?
They come from Martin. Martin's the guy behind those. He's brilliant at. We knew we had to brand the night.
Yeah.
That's what we did different from most poetry nights that were going on at the time. We branded it. We put a little picture, so people, as soon as they saw the poster, they recognised it was our night. No one had really done that before. And Martin, that's his great skill. He's worked in advertising all his life, so he understood. Oh, this is how we do it. And so he came up with the phrases. We spoke about what it was. It was like, oh, it's a poetry night for people who don't like poetry, and that's it. Like, that's his phrase. He got it out there. Yeah. And poetry, not ponce. It was like, oh, it's not academic. Yeah. It's in keeping with what the beat poets were doing. Or you don't have to study it. You don't have to have a degree to come to our night to get it.
Who were some of the first poets you were booking for the night?
We struggled to get anyone, really, but the first poet that turned it around, and we were once a month, we've been once a week 6 years, but we were in 2000, and so we started that in 2009-10, but we were once a month before that, and the first poet that came down, and we persuaded, because we had no money, and so we persuaded Elvis McGonigal to come.
Yeah.
And he blew. It was the first one where the roof came off the night, and it was full up. The energy in the room was incredible, and he was on stage going, "This is what a poetry gig's supposed to be like." So he loved it. The audience loved it, and all of a sudden, after all those nights of no one turning up, I thought, this is getting close to what we imagined it would be. It's never reached where me and Rob and Martin have spoken about where we'd want it, but at that night, that was the first time it kind of, I thought, this is it. And then all of a sudden, he went straight from that gig to Norwich to do a gig, and he was on the bill with John Osborne and Luke Wright, and he just said, oh, this is a good gig. So all of a sudden, people wanted to come. Mm. But before that, we couldn't get anyone. They didn't want to come.
Why do you two think that Bang remains probably the only regular night in London that encourages the audience to have a good time? And you know, because it still remains different, doesn't it? To a lot of
around the country, though, that's not okay. It's been copied. I'm not sure actually. I think the energy of those early gigs, Boomerang have got it, and Boxed In have got. I think there are gigs around that have this. They've got that energy that we started to have in those early days. But I don't know if there's any spoken words taken over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're to blame for that a bit as well, but it's getting swamped. You know, the scene's swamped with it now. Really, it's a bit like, well, we were about variety. You know, you could stick a paper bag over your head and say a poem, or you could or Andrew Motion could come up and read the poem. So we was about variety. That variety, that's lacking. I would say.
I do agree that a lot of nights similarly try and be energetic and not stale like a lot of other poetry nights, but I don't think many nights are as proactive as Bang as we're trying to get the audience to have a good time as well.
Yeah,
and I think that's a really big difference.
Okay, that's down to Rob really. Go on, you say what happened. I know what happened, but you say what you think.
I think it's a bit like music gigs, isn't it? I just know that my favourite music gigs are when you're dancing and everyone, the audience and the performers are in it together, and like the Flaming Lips are a massive example.
That's what it came. I remember one night we were at Bang and we were just speaking about Flaming Lips gig, which me and Rob loved, and we were like, oh, we should make it like a Flaming Lips gig, or try to with no budget, and that was the thing really.
Their gigs it's just the most inclusive thing ever. So with all the massive balloons, and not that we have balloons at Bang, but it's just. When it's 50-50 between the audience and the performers and trying to make a thing together that exists only in that one night, you know, so people can go away from it and think, Oh yeah, we were part of that. Not like I had someone reading at me for 20 minutes, and I've been sat here for an hour and a half now, and like it's like
you make the audience work in a different way. So if I go to an academic gig, I have to work to take out of it what I want. Whereas we're making the audience work in a different way. So like you're part of the show. So when they meet us halfway, that's when it really happens. We're not putting the emphasis all on the performers to go like, you've got to do a blinding gig, otherwise this isn't going to work. You could have all. There's been nights when you can have all the performers really hit a bum note, but it's still a brilliant night because all the glue works.
Yeah.
And that's important,
Making these shakers like milk cartons full of chickpeas is quite a simple thing for people to shake. You know, that people have a rattle instead of applauding, and that seemed to make. I mean, we did a gig at the Bull and Gate, was it, in Kentish Town?
Yeah.
And it was like, Bang is doing the Bull and Gate in Kentish Town, and it's a massive room. And there was 5 of us putting the night on, and then there was 2 audience members. But we still did it, and because the 2 audience members had 2 shakers each, it sounded like there was a lot more people in the room, and those 2 people were having a great time. So that is kind of, I mean, some of the solo gigs that I've done, like there's been 2 people there, but as long as you go and give it 100%, then.
Yeah, I was talking to James Harris and Dan Simpson last night. Who were both, Dan's a poet as well, but both are involved with stand-up comedy, and they were talking about how silence can be really contagious in an audience, you know. And if you get, you know, you only need 5 or 6 people in an audience to not laugh, and that will spread.
Yeah.
And in normal poetry settings, if you've got too much light, people feel very vulnerable and very exposed.
Yeah.
And I've always felt like when it comes to Bang, there's an anonymity behind the shaking, behind the rattling, because there's so much noise. People aren't embarrassed to laugh. You know, people aren't embarrassed about being the first one to laugh or the first one to cheer.
Yeah.
Because there's already so much. You know, you're all embarrassing yourselves as the host. You know. And it's,
we train we did the amazing thing we did was train the audience to listen really well and be loud at the right moments, and that was, you can sense when more than half the audience are new, because you're almost it takes 5 or 10 minutes to get them in line, you know, to say, oh look, this is how you do it, and they get it, and then they take, but it was the point of it being intimate. It was about being the best house party that you've ever been to. It's like you come up the stairs, you know, and you feel, come in, have a drink. It was about making everyone feel welcome, whoever you are. You know, welcome at the door, give them glow sticks. So they didn't come in thinking, oh, what am I supposed to do? It's like, you can do what you want.
Yeah. Is it sometimes hard to encourage people that would consider themselves purely page poets to come and read? Are people a bit intimidated by the audience?
Yeah, because they don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
But I think when they come and do it, they love it. So, you know, also those people have to have a big personality. So I think when Andrew Motion did, the thing about he's a really good performer. So if you've got a page poet who isn't such a good performer to do it, then maybe that would be more difficult. But he's very engaging.
Really,
so
I thought Helen Mork did a great job last time she read, because she came on after some really funny people, you know, and obviously worked a lot on the comedic side of their set as well. But she came on.
Yeah, and she would have been, you know, she's a great performer as well. I think. Have we had any straight? I mean, page poets who you think who would need a lectern to read from? I don't know.
No, I think though, once you step on stage, you're a performer, whether you're a page poet or whatever.
And it wouldn't matter on our stage. That's the thing. You could be your first gig, or
I don't think anyone would be left to flounder on the stage. I just mean that it might just be intimidating to take the step up onto the stage.
I think Roger McGough was really nervous when he came. He was super nervous about it, because there's that expectation, which, you know, people who haven't even been to the gig think it's something else.
So Bang's had a bit of a break. Was it October last year?
I don't know. It was summer, wasn't it?
Summer, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Break at the summer.
Was it May? Was it?
Oh no, sorry.
I didn't.
Because you stopped before Edinburgh.
We stopped before Edinburgh, and we
Yeah,
didn't.
yeah.
We were supposed to come back in September,
That's
and we
right,
didn't.
yeah.
We
Right.
So we were
About
supposed to
what's-
come
yeah.
back. We were supposed to come back in September. Then it got moved back to January. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so you'll no longer be at the Roebuck. You're moving to Bloomsbury Theatre now, and that starts on the 28th of January. And it's going to be once a month now, is it?
Once a month instead of weekly.
So, I suppose first of all, why have you moved to a theatre space? Maybe explain the physical space that you're going to be occupying at Bloomsbury as well, whether
It's in the studio.
it's
At
in
the
the
moment.
studio rather than
Because the main space is not available at the moment because of all the roof problems.
Yeah, they've
But,
got asbestos, but we've got the main space in October.
Yeah.
But we are in the studio space.
which is how many seats?
70 seats,
Yeah.
intimate little room, which suits us
But
brilliantly.
there's a lot of lights, and there's going to be a technician that we've never had that before. There's been one spotlight, and whether that makes it better, I don't know, but it means that we can have like strobe lighting and stuff. Does strobe lighting make poetry better? I don't
Brilliant,
know.
makes it much better.
I don't
mate.
know.
Yeah, it's like I think that the reasons we moved. There's many reasons why we've moved, but Bang. I don't think Bang was going to continue to exist if we'd stayed above the pub, because everyone knows. If anyone who's put on one gig knows the effort it takes to put that one gig on. We were doing it once a week, and so to book the acts, to set up our room, which is a lot of setup and a lot of takedown. So the gig, even though the gig was 2 hours, it's it's an hour setup, hour breakdown, 2 hour gig, a day to book all the acts for that month. We'd grown up, we'd suddenly got really busy. I had kids, Martin was working really hard, you were getting on with your solo work. It just became impossible to keep that level of anarchy above a pub we were doing all the press ourselves. And we looked around, didn't we, to see if we could get help. And you came up with the answer, really. Avalon came in, didn't they?
Yeah.
To represent us.
Oh, okay.
And they could do the press. They could get us the gig. They gave us a tech team. So all the things that we were struggling with at the admin were taken off our hands. So that was one of the main reasons for moving.
Yeah.
But also, things like Rob was doing all the music and the sound and all that made it really personal and brilliant, because all the mistakes, and especially when I was doing it with Rob, we had a great understanding of when things were coming in and out. So the show got really tight. It just, in the end, what I always said to Rob, and Rob always said to me, was like, I wished I was in the audience watching this. But when you're doing your work for all that time, you never get a chance to watch it, really.
I suppose it'd be nice to eliminate like little annoyances, like turn up to the venue and someone's stolen the HDMI cable to the projector and stuff like that.
All that stuff. And then you've got someone to take care of that for you. It's just stress free.
It means you've got more time to spend on the bits that you wanted to be involved with in the first place, haven't you?
We can turn up and concentrate on the show and do the show.
Yeah, and try and enjoy it, I think, and put a shift in, and try and because I always loved it at the Roebuck. I think just towards the end of last year, it was becoming difficult because the audience it changed.
The audience changed.
It really changed, and there's a lot of. It's just hard when you've been doing it for how many years?
6 years weekly.
6 years weekly,
It's a lot of shows.
Yeah.
And the audience, we'd grown up, so the audience had changed, and the young people that came in those first weeks had gone off and started doing their own shows. So that all that group that had put the energy in there from the audience had all gone, and we started getting middle class people coming to the pub, didn't we? Whereas before it was a whole mix. It was an older generation of people.
Had the Roebuck changed in that time as well? The pub must have changed.
The pub had got well known for being a really nice pub to go and have food and drinking, I suppose. And Michael had done a brilliant job at the manager.
We didn't have a mass amount of press exposure, but even just a few little articles, I think, helped. It changed from people coming to the night and thinking, oh, I'm excited to see what happens, let's have a good night, and we all worked together, audience and performers and people who organised it, to create something. Whereas I think towards the back end, it was more of like the audience were turning up and saying, "Oh, I've heard this is meant to be good."
Expectations are changed.
Yeah, they did. They really.
You know, it gets mentioned on Radio 1, "Oh, this is the best gig in England."
Yeah.
People turn up and go, "Oh, go on, prove
we'll
it."
Yeah.
And you're like, well, that wasn't the case before. We were all in it together.
Yeah.
I'd stopped doing the comparing. I wasn't turning up to the night because I'd, babysitting duties and things. We were all tired, and I think we were feeling
one
it.
point I've made to a lot of people that are looking to put on nights and trying to, I don't know, raise the status of spoken word and poetry gigs in general, is that if you're trying to follow the model of comedy nights and gigs, you are then facing an audience that might not be really that bothered whether about your feelings as a host, and if you're shit, they're going to tell you. They might just walk out or talk over the performance and stuff. And once you start charging a decent ticket price and getting that kind of press coverage, you've got to be producing something good regularly.
It's got to be good every time. Yeah. We did try to do that.
And that's not to say that you failed on that, but it's hard to keep running.
We tried to do, that was it, we tried to be professional and do the best gig every week and really bring it, even if you felt like you didn't want to be there. It was dragging it through to say, look, let's give this energy.
Is the structure of the night going to change?
We've just brought back, it's the same. We've got, because the format works really well, we've taken it to Edinburgh, we've taken it to other places, other festivals, and we know every route.
It's more of a question for maybe people that have been used to coming to the Robot. They might.
We got rid of the Golden Gun, but we're bringing the Golden Gun back because that was missed.
Yeah.
So that's the open mic is back.
Yeah, and that was something that people really liked, wasn't it?
I didn't like it.
Didn't you?
Well, no, because I lost twice.
Okay.
I'd rather not talk about that.
I remember your performance though.
Yeah,
I was there when you did that. Yeah, it was great. It was
anyway.
good.
Sorry, no, carry on. But that's good that you bring back an open mic element to it.
Yeah. And we were speaking before we started the interview. We were talking about open mics and the difficulties of them. The reason we didn't have an open mic when we started, but the reason we put an open mic in those early days was to get an audience in because no one was coming. I think I mentioned that. So no, we didn't have. So we put 10 spots on the open mic, and we had the tequila shot
open mic
spot where you down a tequila and you do your poem, and it was brilliant. So Martin would turn up on stage with a big frying pan of tequila, and it was fantastic.
So you get a free shot.
So we realised actually to make it a bit of a show, people really enjoyed that, and then we moved because we wanted it to be the main bit. We moved the open mic to the end, and it got a lot of complaints, didn't it? Because what we found was the open micers would turn up, and then half time would come, they'd all leave, and we'd lose out. So we'd like, we'll move it to the end. But we did make it it was the highlight of the show.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, when it clicks,
and so
I suppose it's part of making the audience feel part of the show as well.
Yeah, so we really worked. So we never intended of keeping the open mic, but actually it ended up being the.
That was some of my favourite moments were when, someone would sign up to the open mic and like be reading for the first time ever, and they'd bring like 7 or 8 mates, and like they would. Their friends are behind them, and it's really magic. And like some of the open mic nights where you go and like see people doing it for the first time, and then people who they never thought that they'd do it, and then I think that was a good thing, or is the good thing about Bang, is like people don't feel intimidated by the word poetry. They're like, oh yeah, I can. If I do feel this way about something, I can write some lines about it. They don't have to rhyme. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to follow any kind of form. It can, but it doesn't have to. You've got to get your insides out, and that is like, and say it how you mean it, and give it heart and soul, and just seeing that happen and then it's like a book. I mean, first time I ever did a gig was at Martin's fireworks party in his back garden, and then Dan said, "Oh, do you want to come and read some at Bang?" And like just got the bug of going, wow, it's kind of it's addictive.
I remember because you read I remember laughing a lot because you read 3 at the first bang. You read 3 poems.
Yeah.
Or something. Then Martin turned to me and said, "Oh, make sure he reads 1 next time."
Yeah.
And now look at you.
Yeah.
Just because we go back to the phrase poetry, not ponce.
Yeah.
Theatre spaces can be a bit poncy, can't they? So
Yeah.
how is there anything that you're mindful of avoiding after moving to the Bloomsbury?
Well, we don't know how it's going to work out, but we're going to try very hard to bring that anarchy into that space. There's certain things that have changed. Obviously, ticket prices changed, so that's going to get rid of a certain type of person who might want to come because they might not be able to afford it. We're keeping the doors open. The bar's right next door to the theatre space, so people can come and go whilst the people are on stage reading. So yeah, hopefully we're going to break down those barriers between what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do in a theatre space.
Yeah, I mean that is one problem with theatre spaces in general is the cost, and it is very exclusive in it towards but it's I suppose it's a compromise you have to come to.
I just hope there's enough. Bang wouldn't have continued at the pub, and I just hope there's enough other nights on out there that were doing what we were doing, 5, 6, 7 years ago. That people can go to. They don't have to come to Bang, but if they want to, we're only doing Bang once a month. People were coming regularly to Bang, and it was what £7-8
I suppose that's one thing. People perhaps who can't afford it. You've got a one-off ticket price of what's the first gig costing?
£12.50, 15. So concessions £12.50, £15.
So £15 against £32 if you wanted to go every night in a month. So it does give people the chance to maybe put a couple of quid away and go to 1 gig a month rather than. And
instead of coming twice a month, you just come once.
I think it's hopefully it'll reach a new audience of people. I mean, January, I couldn't believe it, but all the tickets have been sold, and that just goes to show that I think it's going to be new people who may have never been to a spoken word gig but go to a lot of maybe stuff at the Bloomsbury Theatre. So I think it's kind of our job now to say this is what spoken word can be, and it's exciting really to see what the audience is like, and it's going to be a challenge, but that's a good thing, right?
Yeah, and on that note, I mean, is the move to a theatre space a move just for Bang in itself, or do you feel like you're trying to elevate poetry in general in London?
Not really. I don't think that's our job, is it? Not to take the lead, but just to play some part in.
It's a weird one. I think people think we did just because we led on certain things. I remember when we done the films for Channel 4 and that, there wasn't any poetry films around really. There was a few, wasn't there, we looked at, and we were like, it just so happened we made 15 in a short space of time. So, but now lots of people make them. And poetry's come popular in a not because of what we were doing. It's just that we were there at the point when it was going up. We had our own ambitions to do stuff to make a living out of it. Really, we didn't think we were changing anything. It was just that when we were trying to do TV, we were breaking doors down to do it, and now I think those doors are open a little bit. Or when we were doing the robot, there's certain things that were easier because we could do exactly what we wanted, but it was harder because we were trying to bring the audience in. I don't know. Go on. What's the question again?
I just whether you've made any conscious effort to play a part in trying to raise poetry in London from the established sort of venues and take it to a wider audience. You may not have crossed your mind, and that's.
Do you know what? Early on, we might have been as arrogant to think, we're going to do that. I don't think we could. It's
difficult, isn't it? Because I don't think there is any promised land of being like. It's that goals are always moving, and if someone had said, "Oh, you're going to go do Bang at the Bloomsbury Theatre," I'd be like, "Oh, that's good," and it's a new challenge. But I guess now it's like, what do we want to do? Well, we want to do the studio gigs, tried to make it as brilliant as possible. So then it goes into the next year, goes into the big space, and then it can be like a whacking great big party every month, and that will have a lot of exposure, and like, well, there'll be more people in there. But I think at the core of it is just like turning up and trying to grab people by the scruff of the neck and be like, we're alive, come on.
Shake them out of this virtual world that's everyone's sitting on their Facebook.
Partly that question is born of hearing a lot of people lamenting the fact that not enough people, the poetry audiences aren't as big as they'd like them to be, right? And that somehow the status needs to be raised. But I never understand what people want it raised to. I don't, because if you're saying you want it raised to the point of a Flaming Lips gig, well, surely you should just go to Flaming Lips gig.
Yeah.
No, if what you want is a concert experience, go to a concert. If what you want is a theatre experience,
you got to be careful what you wish for, because you know, comedy isn't as rich just because it's got bigger audience now. It was better when it wasn't successful in a way, you know, because of the variety. And I think that's what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about it. It's all poetry's taking care of itself forever. You know, it doesn't need us to look after it. But it is a shame at this period in time that there is one style happening. A lot of one style. And I'm not saying there aren't other things happening, but it is swamped with that. And when people say, I like poetry, and they've never been to a poetry gig, they're not talking about poetry. They're talking about George the Poet, Kate Tempest. They're talking about maybe hearing Holly McNeish on Radio 4. They're talking about these other things that aren't necessarily poetry. They are poetry, but they're not the variety of that I'd like to go and watch a gig with an array of people doing. That's just them doing what they do. But there's a lot of copying of like, okay, there's that one-man show. And so when we did, you know about one-man shows in Edinburgh, from when you started doing them to now, there's now hundreds, but there used to be like, what, 20 or 30 maybe going on. And now there's hundreds of one-man shows. It's people are choosing, you know, poetry belongs in a book. So that's why books, so poetry belongs wherever you want it. If you want to put it on a wall, if you want to put it in an art gallery, if you want to put it in a book, if you want to do a one-man show, that's all fine. But
can I bury mine in the garden?
You can bury it in the garden. You can do all of that stuff, and that's the book. But if everyone's doing a one-man show, you have to question. You think, what were they thinking? What did they think that was the best vehicle for their poetry, or could they have done something else with it? You know, that's my thing, really.
Yeah.
So time's ticking on a bit. I think we'll wrap up with what you're both up to individually in the future. We'll start with Rob.
I'm writing a new book called Take Hair. Hair, right?
Take hair or take care?
Take hair.
Yeah.
Take hair.
Yeah, I get it.
Because people keep saying to me, take hair. What?
How are you spelling that?
Take and then Hair.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it'll work or not. Take hair. Does it work?
What are those Michael Rosen's books where they're called?
Take Care.
I can't remember what they're called, but when you go and ask,
has he got a book called?
No, he's got. I can't. He's got kids' books. That when you ask for them, it sounds like you ask. It sounds like. I think he's got one called. Have you got this book or something?
Yeah.
And then so when you go for asking, they're like, "Have you got this book?" And they're like, "What book?" That sort of thing. Isn't it? It's like, no, it's called. Have you got this book? But anyway,
so I'm doing that. I'm writing new ones with Burning Eye.
Yeah.
And I'm also writing a new show about sleep called The Sleep Show. And I'm going to do previews of that. And then I'm doing a tour of my water show, last year's show. And I've got gigs at Soho and things like that.
And if people want to follow what you're up to, are you on Twitter?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter and Hotmail. I'm on Hotmail. I'm finding it hard though.
I did expect you to be on Yahoo, mate. Actually,
did you?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It just suits you more.
You have a letter.
Take.
You think I'm
Yahoo?
Yeah. You have a letter You send a letter. You have a.
Yes,
that's it.
I do,
Advertise
I've got
that.
a newsletter.
You have a newsletter, which is great. Yeah.
But it's not really about news. I think it's the thing I enjoy doing the most, which is start writing at a keyboard and just don't stop for a long time, and then send it out to people. And
sounds awful, but it is good.
And it's just like just trying to see where it goes, you know.
Yeah. I can't believe I've lived without it.
You can do it on MailChimp.
You need to sign up.
And if you go to robauton.co.uk, Auton, Auton, .co.uk, and then sign up to the mailing list. I'm due to send one actually. The last one was in December. You know, it's a chance for me to talk about my things in the supermarket. I think a lot of people have, going to the supermarket. There's a lot of funny stuff that happens in the supermarket. Like I don't think it was in the last newsletter. Not to give anything away, but it'll be in the new newsletter that was. Kellogg's Cornflakes had a special box with Father Christmas on the front. You see that?
No.
Yeah.
Well, it was like an old illustration of Father Christmas, and there was this lady, and she had a basket, and she had the Kellogg's Cornflakes box with Father Christmas on it, and this little girl, I don't know if it was her kid or not, but she just got the cornflakes box and started hugging it and saying Santa, Santa, and it made my day. Yeah. And just there's so much, there's magic everywhere. I think that's the thing. Like just walking along. We were walking here, and there was a lady behind us saying that she shot Jimmy Cliff.
I think I'd shot Jimmy Cliff.
She said you shot Jimmy Cliff.
Yeah. Which lucky we had to come down this road first because I didn't fancy her follow me down the street going, you shot Jimmy Cliff, and everyone getting the idea.
Just stuff like that. It's
pretty standard
makes
behaviour on the Old Kent Road, though.
Is it?
Yeah. Supermarkets. Have you seen the grumpy cat in the Sainsbury's in
I saw that. Yeah.
It's back now. They got rid of it. No. And it's just sitting on top of the freezer.
Oh, I saw that.
And it's really Larry. They can't get rid of it. Yeah, wow. It's a really grumpy thing. Check that out, the Grumpy Cat of Broccoli. Rob, I'll put the links in the description of this video.
Oh, please do, yeah.
Yeah, and then you can find Rob's stuff. I'll forward tweets.
I think your website's worth looking at anyway. I like Rob's website. He's got your what people have said about you page. What do you call it on your page?
Praise and criticism.
Great, yes, brilliant. It is very good. So that's worth a read in itself.
Yeah, I've had quite a lot of
criticism.
Good at like praise and criticism. Like what people, if I get a review in Edinburgh, like the bad ones are always kind of. I don't look forward to reading them, but there's sometimes some of the stuff what people say is just like. Yeah, there's a lot of bad stuff. I mean, Vanessa Foltz was the one where I was speaking to her on radio and she was like, "Oh, that's just sad." So no, I've got the quote that is, "That's just sad." Vanessa Foltz.
And Dan, what
nothing as good as that, really. No, I've got a book coming out with Magnum photographer Mark Power, which I had a gallery show in 2010 of the work. So it was sculptures. It was sort of an experiment of how you put word and images together. And we've finally got the money to make the book. So that's going to come out this year. And it's got loads of fold outs and posters and the sculptures in there. And so it's concrete poetry, really. It's, so that's really exciting. That's going to happen. So I think it's going to be, by the time it goes to print in Italy and stuff, it's going to be mostly March or April time before it happens. But the dummy's done and it's all mocked up and it looks like that's really exciting because I've waited a long time to see it. So hopefully it's out there. I'm doing a project with Rob's best mate Damien Wayhill.
Yeah.
Where it came out of I'd done a project with Tony Husband. Where
I don't know if he's my best mate.
Oh,
he's a good mate.
You've never met him.
I've never had a best mate. I don't think I'm that kind of person.
He went to your birthday party.
he went to my birthday party.
Or did you go to his
Do you
birthday?
deliberately
Both.
not have best friends, or you just so?
I've just never got into it. Like,
You
I don't.
Everyone's on an equal footing, or have you just done away with the idea?
Well, you know
I
what's
just
happened.
don't think people like me enough.
Since I've been doing a project with him, I'm a much better friend of him than you are.
Yeah, he's a very good friend. Yeah, a very good old friend. But it's you know, it's difficult to have
friends.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was yeah. So I'm doing a project with him because it came off. I'd done a project with Tony Husband where I'd send him a poem, and Tony Husband, the cartoonist, would do a cartoon of it. But I've sort of Damien Wayhill is a would you call him an illustrator, an artist?
Yeah, definitely
Illustrator. I mean, he does these amazing drawings anyway, and I'm doing a sort of connected book with him through Burning Eye, most probably, where I send him a poem and he sends back an equivalent as a drawing, and then I do a poem from that drawing. So we're about 8 or 9 illustrations in, so we're doing that. And I'm writing just a one by myself as well, which I'm collecting the poems together. But that's another year off, really, I suppose.
In your shed.
In my posh shed.
In your posh shed.
So I moved house because I had boys, so we moved house, and lucky I've got a posh shed.
I've been following with a lot of interest your shed developments.
I've been doing shelfies,
there's some good books on those shelves. Yeah.
I mean, I'm those shelfies. I'm gonna redo them all, and I'm quite excited by the.
That's vanity, isn't
A
it?
shelfie.
You should just redoing them. Reposing your shelf.
Yeah, you don't know, because some of the books might.
Change Cockrill,
I know, yeah, they might move around, but yeah, no, because I don't know. There was a decision made maybe 5 or 6 years ago when I just said, well, when do you get a chance to put stuff in one place? And yeah, mostly all my favourite writers would have had a place to go and sit. And I never had, everything was done around a kitchen table with kids screaming and it's hard, isn't it? You can't and so.
No, joking aside, it is important to have somewhere to go and
I
work.
made a decision to get my own space and shelve. So it's the first time I've had all my books in one place, not scattered around the house. The last time, the last house, all my books were in the kids' bedroom. So instead of them having kids' books, they had like John Berger books on their table. Like, can you read this one, Daddy? Like, yeah. But so that's brilliant. It's exciting.
We had Paul Birtle's.
What's it called? Terrifying Ordeal is one of them. Yeah,
which is just
it's fantastic.
He was one of the first people at Bang as well, where that would kind of. I remember that night.
I saw him at Brixton. It was the first time I saw him in the windmill there. I think me and Martin. Did you do it?
I don't think so.
So me and Martin done a gig as Bang. I think I used to have a bass player and used to play along with me. We played the Windmill Pub and Paul Birtle was there. It must have been late 90s, maybe early 2000s, but I saw him and everyone was speaking over the top of him in this gig, and I just watched the maze. It was amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic. People should check him out. It's BIRTILL, Terrifying Ordeal Station. Yeah, I read one of his poems on our Christmas special.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
There's one about him saving the world, but he can't even be bothered to take the rubbish out. So it's too good. Yeah, it's great.
So Bang Said the Gun starts up again on the 28th of January. That's sold out, but I suppose if people are desperate to go, they can maybe contact the theatre, get on the reserve list.
But you can also book all the tickets in advance. So all the tickets for February, March, April, May,
all the dates are
June are up.
And, so you've got all the acts booked, so people know.
We haven't got all the acts booked actually. We're just
taking the money.
We're just taking the money. So this month we've got Harry Baker and Selena Godden. Yeah, great.
Fantastic.
Next, we've had a couple of pull-outs for February, but we think we've got a really good lineup. If all the shows sell out in October, we've got the big one, which is 500 seats in the main space. So, which will be
just bear with them; they're doing their best.
Which will be people that we haven't had before, who we want that are A-listers, I suppose.
Yeah, I look forward to my call. Thank you.
Brilliant. You're a bit like, I'll get in touch with your agent.
Just give a shout out to.
Shout out to all your fans.
Shout out to the Laurie Bulger.
Oh yeah,
be, hosting the first one.
Is she? Have you decided that?
I haven't decided.
Because
We
Rob
need to
and
have a
Laurie are now the
conversation.
hosts. Yeah.
We're going to be hosting it, and Peter Hey-Ho,
Peter
who's
Hey-Ho.
done it. He does loads of. He's
Prince of Penge.
yeah.
Or the poet
The
laureate
Prince
of
of
Penge, who
Penge.
does all the booking, all that hard work in the background, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Martin Galton,
Yeah, Martin. Rude bastard.
and all the people that supported it.
Yeah, because this, I don't know if you remember at the start I said this was Lunar Poetry Short, so we should stop. Because
We've gone way over.
I know.
Medium to long. This is.
The first half's a bit dry though.
Yeah,
Yeah, you cut all that. Just
yeah.
goes to the end.
Just cut. We'll just put in the last 7 minutes or something.
Yeah. Bye. See you later, guys. See you at the Bloomsbury.